Form and function. Form and function. That console that looks like our scry should be the controls for the barrier. The thimble was built to interface with it. Great timing. I owe you one.
You need to come with me. All of you.
We mustn't cause a panic.
Sure. It's not like we had a dire supplies shortage on our hands before this happened.
What do I tell the High Enchanter? The Guild will want...
Enough! We won't discuss this further. Not in front of our guests. Identify yourselves.
Aurea Harpene, or Silverbeak, as I'm known among Weaver circles. This is my band, and beside me is our acting point.
Bryn. And
Khan Stanild, Eye of the Enclave. My colleagues are the Spindle and the Axle, representatives of the Enchanting and Craft. Who sent you?
Sent us?
Taza? Renland? The Enclave is the envy of the Maida for its magical prowess. Clearly one of those nations has finally grown a sign and decided to take it for themselves.
Moment. No one sent us. We came here by...
What kind of fool do you take? You expect me to believe that you bypassed our veil, infiltrated our loom gates, and breached asylum without an...
When you put it that way.
This is a misunderstanding. We're Weavers, like you. There was a brief opportunity to enter the Enclave for the first time in decades. Everything we've done since we arrived has been to uncover what happened here after the Surge. And
If that is true, have you really no inkling?
No.
Your reckless conduct has unleashed an enemy that nearly destroyed us 27 years ago.
The Surgeborn. They first appeared a little over a decade after the Veil went up.
Where did they come from?
No one knows. But they arrived in the underworks before making their way to the surface.
Where they left a trail of destruction in their wake and wreaked havoc on the Enclave.
Causing casualties to rise.
And so I called for a retreat here, saving countless lives. We sealed the Surgeborn in the underworks for good. Until now.
We've been here a little while now. Don't you think all of this could have been avoided if you'd properly said hello?
She's right.
This is hardly our fault.
Look, Surgeborn or not, we had no choice but to remove the barrier. Though, I suppose we owe you thanks for warning us about the floods.
Who warned you?
You did.
Did we? I'll deal with you later.
While we can agree Arakim breached no-contact protocol, it has proven to be the right decision. The floods were growing worse, and now they have stopped. Even if fixing them has introduced a new problem.
One my band would be more than happy to help you solve.
Ha! Work!
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned your last name earlier. Any relation to...
She was my mother.
Of course! I mean, before my time, obviously. But she's still renowned in the Enchanting Guild.
Oh. I can't be...
There is so much I'd love to ask you, but Aurea comes from a long bloodline of outstanding and renowned weavers. Shouldn't that buy her band?
Your presence in the outskirts will be tolerated.
What about the Surgeborn?
What about them?
Shouldn't we work together to deal with them?
We could use the help.
The Surgeborn are a problem for anyone in the outskirts, not us. Cassidon's Hold is a fortress.
The scouts do head into the outskirts to scavenge for supplies.
We'll take our own precautions. Speaking of, we have pressing
But
Enough! My word is fine.
Bryn, the one that led us here is clearly the one that warned us. Try to talk to him before we leave. Maybe he's willing to.
Will do.
How many scouts will I need to throw at Smokes before this is all over?
Hey, Arakim, was it?
oh, just call me Arik.
Well, Arik, I never got a chance to thank you. You know, for grabbing me before I fell.
I think you had it. Besides, I couldn't let you plummet into a chasm. The Eye is pretty peeved with me, but hey, that's just...
You and the Eye don't seem to get along very well.
What gave it away? The mutual contempt? The Eye doesn't like anyone who shows initiative, or challenges him. Unfortunately, those are my main qualities. And I suspect he perceives them in you, too.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression he's my biggest fan. Will you be in trouble for saving us?
I'd worry if he ever decided to get off his throne and do something about it. But he finds that throne very comfortable.
So, are you glad we're here?
I'm thrilled you're here.
I have to say, I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for all that cloak and dagger stuff earlier. Khan Stanild had me on strict orders not to make contact with your Weaver band. But it was the right call. From what I just saw, your presence here is having an impact.
How so?
Notice how the Axle took my side against the Eye earlier. That never happens. And the Spindle is as quiet as a mouse most of the time, but not today.
Aha. So these are big changes.
It might not sound like much, but they're excited you're here. That's why he backed down so easily.
So you're not upset that I breached Asylum, like your colleagues?
I've been pushing to do something about the Surgeborn for years now. Setting them free wasn't great, but sealing them in the underworks indefinitely was never a good solution. Frankly, I think Khan Stanild is just annoyed you undid his one claim to fame. I guarantee he has no plans to do anything about the Surgeborn now that they're free.
You don't think he sees them as a threat?
He's got his head in the sand about a lot of things.
You seem awfully trusting of us, considering the terrible first impression we've made.
I was spying on you the first time we met, so let's call it even.
Sure. Maybe you know everything already then, but have you got any questions for me?
Just one. Why are you here?
Growing up, I saw the Enclave as a symbol of what Weavers lost after the Surge. After all, we have no home to return to, and we're pariahs in most nations. But the longer I'm in here, the more I realize how much your people have lost too, and still stand to lose. I'm here to help, however I can.
That is exactly what I was hoping you'd say. If that's truly what you want, then dealing with the Surgeborn is the first step. Ever since the Veil went up, our people have been in crisis. They've spent so long in it, they're afraid to do what it takes to get out. It doesn't help that some have benefited off that same crisis.
Who?
Who always benefits? The very top. Our leaders are too preoccupied with their own concerns to form a unified front against the Surgeborn.
Such as?
The Spindle is obsessed with getting the Arcs functional again. She believes that will help us regain control. And the Axle is too stressed about our supply shortage right now. But if their concerns were handled, they could pressure the Eye to finally address the Surgeborn.
That sounds like an opportunity. And are you a representative yourself?
Representative, yes. Sway? No. The Scouts were once points like you. We were effectively drafted into scavenging for food and supplies. Recently, we've even been separated from Cassidon's hold and the remaining civilians. Anyway, it's the guild leaders who will need to pressure Khan Stanild into dealing with the Surge. That's where my people need your help the most. Then we can start fixing the...
Sounds like I've got some palms to grease.
Yuck. I'll come by your camp later. We'll be able to speak.
What is that about?
The Eye isn't one for idle chit-chat. That's worth watching.
Talk to you back at our camp.
You got it.
Sev, you all right?
No. I mean,
You sure?
Bryn, the rest of us are heading out. See you back at camp.
I got to go.
I am simply telling you, as the foremost leader of the Enclave, that I don't...
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
You know exactly what I mean. I focus on your own problems. Organize your little craftspeople. Keep the wheels of... And don't dare to presume you know better than me.
If you have a problem with my performance, you are welcome to gather feedback from the people who elected me. They may have a clearer understanding of what I bring to the table.
We'll continue this conversation.
Hirun, Khan Atme. Allow me to formally introduce you to Bryn, the Weaver Band's point.
You're the Axel, right? Arakim says you're a good person to know.
I am. My given name is Harun, as Arakim said, but you may refer to me as Khan Atme. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Despite the circumstances, the new Surgeborn threat requires us to realign our... Some are a little slower on that.
If there's anything we can do to move things along.
What about the supply shortage? I've seen her in combat. She's better than any of us.
What's her help look like? I'd prefer if she could avoid unleashing another apocalypse on us.
We didn't bring a lot with us, but if there's anything we can provide to you, our quartermaster has a decade working the maiden shipping lanes turned her hard as can steel.
She sounds lovely. But unfortunately, we're supplying 10,000 people, not 7 weavers and their pack beast. And I doubt you'd have enough on your caravan to make much of a difference. Fortunately, there's a silver lining to your Surgeborn mess that could solve the problem.
Count me in.
Right. With the Surgeborn unleashed, we're anticipating casualties and damage to our facilities. However, there's a restricted area in the underworks that we lost access to decades ago when the Eye sealed it. The Institute, an arcane laboratory where the Enclave conducted its enchantment research, among other projects. Inside the Institute lies a significant supply cache. Its contents will be enough to keep us going for the time. If the notes the previous Axel left me are accurate, though, there's...
Of course.
The Surgeborn secure territory by building structures. The Institute is likely overrun with them, and has been for 20...
So, the Surgeborn are a long-standing threat to the Enclave.
I wish I were old enough to remember what it was like to live without the fear of the Surgeborn. As a child, I sat awake every night worrying about them. They were terrifying. Knowing what I know now, I should have been...
I'm sorry you went through that. It must have been horrible.
Thank you.
All the more reason to actually do something about the problem, instead of spending our lives cowering behind the walls of our glorious fortress.
You'll hear no disagreement from me, now that the game board has been upended.
Sounds like I need to clear any Surgeborn hives from the Institute, then.
That'll thin them out enough that my scouts will be able to access the supply cache without much trouble.
Now that Asylum is lifted, we should be able to access the loom gates in the Institute again. I'm going to trust you with this key swatch. It's been gathering dust for over 25 years.
Only the Eye would let such a crucial resource sit there for that long.
Yes. If we're clear on everything, I'll get back to work. My list of obligations grows by the minute. Someone has to keep this goddamn fortress running. It will be a tight season, but we should make it.
Excuse me, but Arakim mentioned you're the Spindle, a leading representative for the High...
Oh,
We wanted to formally introduce ourselves. I'm Aurea, as you know. This is Dam, our enchanter.
We didn't catch your name earlier. Khan?
just call me Isla. Is there something?
We'd actually like to help you. Apparently you want to restore the...
Shh. Sorry, that sounds wonderful, but the Eye won't be happy about us collaborating.
Come on. You must know better than anyone how integral the Arcs are to the Enclave. Why let the Eye's political gains stand at...
I do know that. I mean, I do want to fix the Arcs. More than anything. I just need you to be quiet about it.
Okay. We'll try, but forgive us if our excitement bubbles over and we forget.
It's Dam. He's the one that might forget.
We know that the Arcs began malfunctioning after the surge. A select few were even sabotaged. Any idea on what caused the other
Some theories, but nothing solid. Anyone who knew how to create Arcs, let alone fix them, died before I was born. I've tinkered with an inactive Arc that's lying near the Grand Gate, but it would make a world of difference if I could study a resonance that was freshly harvested from a great Arc's pattern.
Consider it done.
Bryn's got you covered. She has a knack for harp.
You'll have it in no time.
If you're sure, I certainly would appreciate it. With discretion.
Right.
We've been talking a while. You'd better go.
Need I remind you that your access to Cassidon's... You would do well to mind yourself, or risk losing the privilege of coming...
Hey,
Yes. I was born.
how?
Oh, luck. Or tragedy. Before I was born, my mother and father lived here, but they decided it would be better if my mother raised me with my grandmother, and so she left with me when I was just a hatchling.
But the surge.
The life I should have had was because of all this, I never knew my father.
Is it common for Oberon hatchlings to be raised apart from their father?
No, but it is, as you know. It was apparently quite a shock when my mother fell for a Hearthsider.
So your parents were looking for a compromise when it came to raising you?
Exactly. And I wouldn't trade my childhood on the road. My great-aunts and my grandmother made me who I am, after all.
Still, you missed out on your father.
I suppose.
Isn't it a little strange your mother never told you his name?
She was separated from him so suddenly. My mother's a strong woman, but whenever I asked about him as a child, she could only manage a few words before her face would crumble. She found it too painful to discuss.
But now?
I can't help but wish I...
Does your family have...
Being here has meant a lot in some ways. And in meeting the Hearthsiders was a lifelong dream. But the circumstances of our encounter?
Knowing now that this is your birthplace, I can see...
This was meant to be my home, after all.
This is definitely a twist.
I am sorry for that. You need to be.
So why hide it?
Talking about difficult and private matters is not... And frankly, I rarely see the point in...
I guess you and your mother have that in common.
Huh. You might be right.
So, we're going to find out who...
You would...
Of course. Maybe later.
Actually, I had an idea myself. The spindle mentioned a statue of my mother. It's clear the Enclave commemorated their champions. I can't shake this feeling my father is among them.
You think there's a statue of your father?
I know it sounds strange, but the handful of times that my mother spoke of him, she described him as this great hero. Since she was one herself, is it so crazy to think she might have meant that literally?
Maybe not. I can scope out the statues in Upper Denevron for a resemblance, if that's what you want.
Good. And...
Bryn, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you.
What's going on? You look pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just... about those 90 Drake scales. I know Arya said we don't need them. She just doesn't understand. It's dangerous, especially now that these Surgeborn are loose. We need to be prepared for anything. It's just gnawing in the back of, do you think you could do it?
Kaz, you need to tell me what's really going on here. I want to help, but the Drake scales? The Weaver Band is okay. More than okay. We're in the best shape we've been in since we entered the Enclave, now that we've made contact with the Hearthsiders. Besides, the caravan is looking pretty full. It's not making sense.
You think I'm insane?
No, of course not.
Era's breath. I shouldn't have brought this up. Ugh, but you just don't understand. Everyone could die.
Whatever this is, please just tell me what's going on.
shouldn't have burdened you. Sorry, but
Kaz,
I can't talk about this anymore.
Caspin is not okay. And I don't think bringing her more stuff is the answer. I'd better talk to Aurea.
And then, Sev and I realized we might be able to repurpose the carapace for more than just loon gates.
Uh-huh.
Purely theoretical right now, but
I'm a little busy trying to look over these Tarmakind schematics again. Do you mind coming back later?
Oh, okay. You're right. We can discuss theoretical magic anytime. I'll leave you to your work.
Oh. Hey, Bryn.
Everything all right? Things between you and Dom seem...
Yeah, a bit.
Have you told him how you're feeling?
It feels like he's so wrapped up in his own discoveries that he's not hearing me.
He is easily distracted, but maybe you should try again. He must care about your feelings.
Then why isn't he asking about them? Sorry, this isn't on you. I'm just frustrated. I need to do more than just tell him what Tarmakind means to me.
How so?
I need to show him. By investigating Tarmakind practices, maybe I can make some headway on restoring these techniques. Then he'll understand.
Hey, I'm always down to investigate lost knowledge, especially in the name of love.
You'll help me?
Of course.
Amazing. I'll ask the Axel if she knows anything about...
Great idea. I'll meet you at Cassidy's hold.
I'm proud of this one.
How are you settling in, Eric? Things going well?
Good. Yeah, they're...
Just good?
No, not really. The Eye publicly scorched you for opening up Asylum. And yet I've heard him telling the Spindle that this could be a good... Meanwhile, the runners are stretched paper thin, which, of course, leaves my people no time to deal with actual...
Sounds like you could use some help. What's the problem?
Really? Dancing... No, wait, I know. The Spitfires. A particularly aggressive group seems set on spreading through Denevron. In particular, they're building nests in some areas I was hoping to use as training grounds. But...
Would the areas be safe if I took care of the nests?
Yes, though the nests are very durable. They will turn brittle if you get them cold enough.
Consider it done. Anything else?
Maybe an odd request. Could you ask Oria if I could power the scry while you're tackling them?
Why not ask her yourself?
I feel like I have a lot to learn from Oria and how she works with you. And it's strangely intimidating to admit that to her directly.
She is a force of nature. I get it. I'll ask. Hey, Oria. About Casmin.
I know. I'm worried too. So is the rest of the band. Let's talk at the archive, privately. I'll join you and Lane in a moment.
All right. Hi, Oria. I am here on behalf of Arakim.
That's weirdly formal. Everything all right?
He finds you intimidating. Personally, I don't see it, but I thought I'd be extra polite for his sake.
He does. Good.
He's wondering if he could power the scry while I run an errand for him. He's hoping you'll give him tips.
Happily. But feel free to tell him I was a bit scary, to keep him on his toes.
Good news. It was tough going, but I managed to convince Madame Silverbeak to take you under her wing.
Madame Silverbeak. Wins. I'll wear my good socks. I've coordinated lots of operations from Cassidy's hold, but I never had much formal training. More self-taught. A chance to learn from someone with decades of experience is an incredible opportunity. I'll be there with you then, when you get close to the nests. They're in the Bastion's yard and Envoy's Landing in Upper Denevron.
It's safe to say Casmin hasn't been acting like herself. She's always been tightly wound, but this is something else.
Bryn, she seems more open with you than most. Can you describe in detail what's abnormal about her behavior?
She's begging me for more supplies, even though the caravan is chock full.
Not that we could tell because she's covered it up.
More than that, she just seems distressed. She's always talking about worst-case scenarios, and lately it's like she's convinced we're all going to die.
I have heard rumors of abnormal behavior developing in Kashar that could be linked.
What kind of rumors?
In polytheistic beliefs that are pervasive in the southern part of the Maida, there is an affliction known as Ira's Plague. The sufferer is haunted by twisted visions of death and pain. The goddess of justice, Ira, won't allow the sufferer inner peace until they repent through scrupulosity.
Scrupulosity? What is that exactly?
Oh, my apologies. I forget most people don't follow UD in eschatological study. Scrupulosity can be best described as a series of repetitive acts that one is compelled to do. For example, if Casmin is plagued by relentless images of our band dying from exposure,
she might send our point out over and over again to retrieve...
Yes, in order to dispel the
Are you seriously suggesting Casmin is... what? Possessed?
Of course not. I'm confident that this is merely a stigmatized phenomenon that could not be explained through facts or science. So the populace explained it through religious folly instead.
Any ideas what facts could explain it?
Not yet.
I didn't realize Casmin was spiritual. Is she really trying to hide these visions from us?
Though not devout herself, Casmin grew up with a strict Ashar mother.
You're right, she did.
It's possible Casmin's affliction was a point of shame or contention between them. Perhaps she fears rejection if she shares her experience with us.
Kashar, what does Ira's plague have to do with them?
While most see Kashar as a celebrated merging of the two cultures, some fringe sects disagree. They believe the wider lineage simply leads to more ancestral sin that must be atoned, and thus only Kashar can be afflicted.
Really? Where do you land?
The concept of impure lineage is clearly hogwash.
All right. Casmin is suffering. We need to do something about it.
And preemptively? No exorcisms?
As I said, this is likely nothing more than a condition that has been stigmatized by religion. A scientific explanation must exist, and thankfully, we are in the heart of progressive thinking.
You think the Enclave could have done research on this?
Makes sense. Where should I start looking?
The steps in the upper city is where I'd start. Between the main building of the spire and the atrium used to stand a school for alchemy. From your explorations, the surge hit that area pretty hard, but some of the building may still...
Great. What am I...
Maybe the name of someone who suffered like Casmin. Or a healer. If you find someone like that, you'll want to search the areas of the city where they spent time. Ira's plague is wildly misunderstood across the Maida. If we could find a treat...
You're right. I'll start with the steps, then. Aurea thinks her the Enclave just like her mother. So I'm looking for a male Oberon that fits our timeline. Aurea's father is unlikely to be a Casil woman. Besides, when it comes to nurturing parental figures, Ramenos's shrewd eye for politics isn't what comes to mind.
Hadn't hit so hard, the steps would lead to the spire. Alas. Elected representatives would convene there, including the Eye, the Enclave's leader.
Imagine a time when Weavers had our own governing body.
I'm pretty sure the statue that was here depicted an Oberon, but it's impossible to tell now.
Maybe there's another statue that isn't damaged.
I'll keep looking around the city.